Shalom. First, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, HaKadosh. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, from whom I learned this truth. Shalom to the 144,000 elect. I am Mayak Allah, and this is going to be the final part 5, on the series that I've been doing, 5 signs that an empire is coming to an end. This being that 5th sign, which is outside attacks. Says weak borders invite enemies to easily invade and break down the land. And we saw this happening. All right, it's not a recent thing. We saw just in this last administration with the opening of the borders. All right, allowing all kinds of people to come through. All right, although as the news reported to us, the majority of them were coming from the South Americas, which are our brothers. But with that, and with those borders just being wide open and being no patrolling, and it allowed all kinds of people to come into this country. So at this point, you don't know who's here. You don't know what kind of sleeper cells that are in here right now. All right. And it was even being reported at that time that it was happening. Toward the end of that Biden administration, that they weren't. It was out of control, and they weren't sure who was being let into this country, right? And as a result, we see what's going on. I mean, it allowed a certain agenda to flourish. All right. So it wasn't a mistake that those things happened, that those borders were wide open, because it gave this current administration a reason to put together the ICE and develop it as they have, so that they can carry on this agenda. So this was a planned event. All right. This didn't just happen, by a chance. All right. They have to create a certain amount of chaos so they can come up with their so-called solution to be able to further their agenda. And that's what we witness. And as a result, we have what we have right now. All right. So there's these borders for them having no checkpoints. All right. Has allowed this to get to this point. And like I said, this goes just to further their agenda, because this is all planned. All right, so I'm going to go, for that reason, I'm going to go into the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38. Ezekiel being Yakazak Allah in the Hebrew, in the Paleo-Hebrew, which means my Yahweh, my strength. All right, and This happens to be a chapter that kind of jumps back and forth in history, and it also, shows in some areas exactly what's being played out today. In particular, what I'm focusing on looking at is what I was talking about, the weak borders. All right, so I'm gonna go right into Ezekiel chapter 38, and I'm gonna go to verse 10. Salaki, I'm praying that my phone will let me pull this up, because I've been kind of having some difficulty with this. I don't know if it's the internet or if it's my phone, but it's just kind of been this way all morning, even at home, and even now that I'm out and about a little bit here, it's still not allowing me to pull up certain things. So I'm praying that it's going to at least let me pull up the blue letter. So, Salakia. Let's see. Give me a minute here to see if I can get something. All right, this is Ezekiel chapter 38, and I'm going to go down to verse 10. And it says, "Thus saith the Lord power, says, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages." And the land of unwalled villages being spoken of here is America, all right? Because like I said, at that time, at that administration, that Biden administration, these borders were wide open, all right, unwalled, allowing anybody to access to come into this country. Verse 11 says, "And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates." All right, and this is America thinking that, believing that they were just so safe, all right, allowing anyone and everyone to come into the country, all right, because there was no one on the border, no type of surveillance. Anyone was allowed to be able to come in. All right, so it's compared to a city of unwalled villages. Verse 12 says, "To take a spoil and to take a prey, to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods, that dwell in the midst of the land." All right, and that's what we're seeing going on right now. All right, there's many different peoples that are in this land right now. All right, and they come into it having, they coming in and establish jobs, they establish living conditions, living quarters. You know, they were given all these things by this past administration, only for it to turn right around and all hell break loose when this current administration comes, when they wanted to close the border, secure the border. That's what Donald Trump ran on, securing the borders. All right, so in essence, what they've done is that they allowed these people to come in and now secure them. All right, so now they can go about further in their agenda, kicking out who they want to kick out and keeping the ones that they want to keep, so that they can use them for labor. All right, and we're seeing that happening right now, because we're seeing a lot of people who were born here in this place that you call America having trouble just finding jobs and going weeks, months, in some instances years, without even being able to secure employment. All right, so what you have happening also is these facilities, where these so-called detention facilities for these people who came across the border illegally, all right, are being detained. But at the same time, with them being detained, they're also being used, all right, for their own personal, the ones who are people in authority, you know, for their own personal use, whether they're using them in their factories illegally, or having them around their homes to do work illegally, all right, or even just abusing these people inside these different detention facilities. All right, we don't know what's going on with them, because it's not being reported on the regular, and people don't have access to these detention facilities. All right, our news media just gives us a real blackout. All right, they don't follow up on any of these things, because they're complicit in this thing too. All right, and they give us false news. They give us the narrative that they want to give us. They're being controlled by this current administration. I'm gonna go to Isaiah chapter 47. Isaiah chapter 47, I'm started verse 8. It says, "Therefore, hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children." And this is the sentiment of the proud American, the people that live on these shores, because of there never being a battle, never being a war on this shore. They think they're impenetrable. They're thinking they can't be touched, all right, because the lands that they decide to have war with, or have these different conflicts with, are so far off and out in what they call the Middle East, which is really Western Asia. All right, so they have these conflicts with these people who are abroad, and they think that they can't get to them. All right, so the Americans sit comfortably, all right, thinking that they can't be touched. All right, verse 9 says, "But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood, and they shall come upon thee in their perfection, for the multitude of thy sorceries, and for the great abundance of thy enchantments." So for all the wicked things that this country has done, I mean, even just recently going down to Venezuela and apprehending the president there, and they still have him here on his land, in America somewhere locked up. All right, I believe it's still in New York, but they don't realize that their enemies are not just abroad. All right, you got they have their enemies right here. All right, and they're right here on these borders, right here within this border. All right, just waiting for the time where, like I said, some of these cells they're waiting for the right time for their to be unleashed to them, for there to do what they have come here to do. All right, so while they're sitting here, so why America sitting here thinking that it can't be touched, it's being touched, because we're seeing all kind of things going on within this land right now. All right, you see, just recently we have up in Minnesota. All right, they're having problems with their water facilities. All right, there's a lack of water because it's been compromised. It's been hacked. All right, and the government inside Minnesota is blaming it on Iran. All right, while Donald Trump is saying that, well, he thinks that the government of Minnesota is responsible for this. All right, because of their inability to govern correctly. All right, so right now they're pointing the fingers kind of back and forth at each other. Federal government pointing at the local government within Minnesota pointing at the federal government, because that governor is complaining how so many so much of the protection that was provided by the federal government to prevent these different type of cyber attacks. All right, so they're pointing the finger at one another, and somewhere in between the two of them, it means somebody's not telling the truth. All right, somebody's guilty, or they may even both be guilty of this thing, because, like I said, this is to further their agenda. All right, so they're creating all this chaos so they can come with a solution here. All right, we're going to see how this thing plays out. So America thinks it's safe, but it's really not safe. All right, they think that they are going to just be able to just keep on and be that superpower that they've always been. They think that's just going to continue on forever. All right, but we can see this is not. This thing is coming to an end. All right, we've gone over all of the 5 signs about an empire coming to an end, and we can clearly see that America has all 5 symptoms. All right, they have all 5 signs. All right, and they're suffering right now, but in their belief that this is just the greatest country in the world. All right, they're thinking that this thing is going to go on forever. I'm gonna go to Psalms chapter 49. Verse 11 says, their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. All right. So, like I said, this is what they believe. All right. They believe that this thing is going to continue forever, and just like you have the Italian map maker, whom this place was named after. Amerigo Vespucci, all right. They just like this, like the verse says, they name their lands after their own names, and that's what will happen, all right. When this Italian map maker made put his name on this land, all right. According to the scripture, this land was called Arsareth, all right, where our northern brothers dwelt here long before it was invaded and conquered by people like this Amerigo Vespucci, and by people like who you call Christopher Columbus. All right, they came here and slaughtered the inhabitants of this land. All right, and conquered it and took it over. All right, and just the way that it's been, they came and conquered it in the past. All right, that's what's happening right now. That's what's going on right now. They're about to be conquered. All right, they just recently celebrated their 250 years of existence, you know, according to when they actually put their Declaration of Independence together. All right, but that's the average lifespan of an empire, 250 years, and we can see that this thing is on a decline. It is going down. We're going to go over into the book of Sirach. Ecclesiasticus. It's in the Apocrypha. Chapter 10, verse 8 says, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches gotten by deceit, all right, which is what those two invaders that I just named. All right, that's just an example of riches gotten by deceit. All right, says the kingdom is translated from one people to another. So although there were inhabitants here, the northern kingdom, our brothers, was already here, dwelling in this land and prospering, and doing well. All right, because of the unrighteous, the wicked coming in. All right, they conquered this land with by slaughtering. All right, by making treaties, hundreds of treaties that they made, and they broke every one of them. They didn't keep any of them with the people, the inhabitants of this land. All right, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing just unrighteous dealings out of this man, and we're seeing him even to this day, because he continues to try to continue his hegemony, his dominance all over the world. All right, but they're come up against an opponent who they thought they were going to slaughter. And like I said before in other videos, all right, America hasn't won a war in decades. All right, the last few wars that they've been involved in, all right, it's starting with Vietnam. All right, they've been unsuccessful. All right, and they just declare victory. All right, because of the narrative that they want to give, because of the information that they present to their media, that they present to the people. All right, we're even finding out that the Pentagon and news media, all right, are not actually reporting the actual number of troops who have been unalived due to this current war that's going on right now. All right, so you're not even getting the true numbers on the casualties, on the troops. All right, but what's going to happen? It's going to be more and more, and then as we get closer and closer to that December law that's going to take effect, all right, with selective service, those people who are eligible to be drafted, all right, you're going to automatically be signed up in the selective service. All right, and that's when we're seeing signs of a draft coming down the pike right now. All right, because they're already doing a simulation or a mock draft just to see how this thing is going to go, and just how to actually implement it and put it in place. All right, so they're not doing that for no reason. All right, they're doing that for a reason, because it's a draft about to happen, and it's about to happen real soon. All right, we're already at the beginning of the month of August. All right, you got just a few more months to go before that December. All right, and even before that, in November, you got midterm elections that's going to come up. That's if they're even going to happen. All right, so there's going to have to be a lot of changes. All right, a lot of things implemented in between now, and I'm going to say in between now and November, before that actual midterm election takes place, because Donald Trump knows that his ass is on the line right now. All right, these Republicans know that if they want to retain a certain number in the House and in the Senate in order to be able to get their agenda further, all right, that they're going to have to be successful in these midterm elections, when we're going to see exactly what's going to play out. Even though they got a certain amount of Democrats too who are going to vote the same way, all right, who are going to vote for anything that's pro-Israel, all right, because both the House and the Senate have been permeated by these what do they call them? Lobbyists. All right. So like, my phone kind of acting crazy. All right, but I just have a couple more verses that I'm going to bring out, because I can see this thing is not. Something's going on with the internet today. I don't know, or maybe it's just my phone. And like I said, like I was just speaking on, this land has been conquered and been stolen in the past. That's what's going on right now. It's going to be conquered from the inside. All right, and those people who are sitting in these positions of authority, this thing's not going to go the way they expect it to go. All right, they're going to get so far to a certain point and further in their agenda, and all hell is going to break loose. This thing's going to fall apart. All right, but I'm going to jump back into Ezekiel chapter 38, because I want to read a little bit more in there. And then just a couple more verses I'm going to bring out, and that'll be the end of this. All right, and that'll be the end of this this 5-part series. Ezekiel chapter back to 38. And I'm going to drop down to verse 18. And it says, "It shall come to pass at the same time when Gog being Russia, shall come against the land of Israel, saith the Lord power, that my fury shall come upon my face." And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing, all right, even though Russia is occupied in with the Ukraine in that war, but they're also they're backing Iran, all right, and another I might as well say superpower, who think they're going to be in control next, are the Chinese. All right, China's even backing Iran. All right, so there are proxy wars going on in the midst of these wars, whether it be the war that's between Russia and Ukraine, and a war between America and Iran, all right, and Israel. See, these things are being connected right now, all right, because like I said on the last video that I did, part 4 on this series, Ukraine has even started firing on Iran, all right? So we know what's about to take place. This is the beginning of that third world woe, all right? That third world war is forming right before our eyes, all right? We're seeing these two These two wars are combining to become one. All right, and more nations are getting involved in this thing. All right, you got Saudi Arabia involved in this thing now. All right, so and we've already been seeing Israel focusing their efforts on in Lebanon because they want to take over areas there. They've taken over Golan Heights in Syria. So it's a lot of parts to this thing. A lot of people are being brought into this thing. All right, and the because the biggest problem is Israel. They want to have dominance in that part of the world. All right, when in all actuality, those people that are dwelling in that land don't belong in that land. All right, that's the big problem. All right, they come from the Khazarian Empire. They're Khazars. All right, so they're imposters. They're trying to say that they're Yahweh's people. All right, but that's not the truth. All right, they're not the chosen people. They're not the people of the Lord. All right, they don't belong in that land. They're imposters. I'm going to jump over to Zechariah chapter 9. Zechariah chapter 9 verse 6 says, "And a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod, and I will cut off the pride of Philistines." And this bastards being spoken of here is the Khazars, all right, because this is a fraudulent people, all right. That's what that means, bastards. All right, there's a fraudulent people. They don't belong there. All right, let me see what Ashdod is. See if it's okay. So like it looks like it's working. Ashdod is H795, and it says meaning powerful. It says a major Philistine city in the Mediterranean Sea west from Jerusalem. All right, modern Ashdod. All right, so Ashdod is referring to these people. All right, that's dwelling in that land right now. All right, they don't belong there. All right, and we know that the Philistines, these were actually people who were Hamites. All right, those are the original inhabitants of that land. All right, but the people that are there right now are not the original people that were in that land. All right, or not the people who have been given that land. All right, those were the sons of Ham. All right, or Canaan. All right, that's who was dwelling in those lands. So that's why it mentions Philistines. All right. All right, but basically what it's telling you right there in Zechariah 9 and 6 is those people that are dwelling in that land today, dwelling in that land right now, all right, are imposters, people of Palestine. Those aren't the original people of Palestine. All right, and I'm going to jump back into Ezekiel 38, and this will be the maybe I got one more I want to bring out. Ezekiel 38 verse 19 says, "For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel." And that's what we're witnessing right now, all right? Because like I was just saying, is that this Ezekiel, this chapter goes back and forth in history, but it's also talking about what's going on. Some of the verses referring to what's going on right now, all right? I want to see what this great shaking is. I'm going to go over to Isaiah chapter 24. Verse 20 says, the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. All right. So that great shaking that we're seeing, that's going to happen in this land of Israel. All right. Even on around this whole earth. All right, is when those missiles begin to hit. That's going to be like a great earthquake. All right, and this whole thing is going to reel and shake to and fro. All right, it's even going to, even the birds that in the air, that are foul in the air that are flying, all right, they're going to feel that shaking, because this whole thing is going to rock to and fro. All right, and that's that rise and fall that is being spoken of here in Isaiah 20 is speaking about the fall, the fall of the wicked. All right, that's what the wicked rulership coming to an end. Let's see, I'm having trouble getting back and forth into my phone, so it's got to be my phone along with this internet. All right, and it says, and it shall fall and not rise again. All right, that's the wicked. All right, that's falling, and then once this wicked kingdom, this wicked regime does fall, it's not going to rise again. All right, because the kingdom that's coming is going to be a kingdom of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, and it's going to be right here on earth. All right, and that kingdom is going to reign forever. All right, governed by the 144,000 elect of Yasharallah, of Israel. All right, but that's going to end this series, this 5-part series on signs of an empire coming to an end. All right, and I pray that this has been edifying to the listener. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, HaKadosh. Shalom.